Hello, hello, hello. October is rolling around and the end of the year is fast approaching. This year have been strong when it comes to game releases and this continues into October. I have found 13 games that I think looks interesting releasing in October, so let's take a look. First up is Lethal Honor Order of the Apocalypse. A roguelite that takes place during an apocalypse, and it has this really cool graphic novel type graphics, and cutscenes also seem to be told through what looks like a graphical novel. I really like the style they've gone for here. The angle is also a bit unusual, not completely isometric. The camera hangs a bit lower, so I wonder how this is gonna feel when you play it. The combat looks decent, a bit floaty maybe, but I do like the character and enemy design here. I hope the progression and story is meaningful as well, with the graphical novel style to it. It feels like the story is a big part of the game, but the progression, abilities and all that needs to be fun as well, you know? But we'll see, not too much information on this game yet. It releases on 7th of October. Next up we have Kingmakers. This one has been delayed a couple of times, and I think most people have seen this one, where you basically come from the future with guns fighting in the medieval age. And it's a cool blend and combat that hasn't really been done before, so it will be interesting to see. What I didn't really know is that the game also have like a strategic aspect to it, building buildings and placing troops, so that should give the game a bit more meat on the bones. And then you of course have co-op. I wonder how the progression will be here. Are there a lot of weapons, modifiers? But so far a very unique and cool idea. Release is planned for 8th of October. Next up is Sweet Carole. Not a game per se I usually go for or play, but it looked really cool, like a blend of a Disney movie and horror. The animation, the world is straight out of like 80s and 90s Disney movies. But then you have this dark fantasy horror vibe to it that definitely makes the game more interesting to me. This is more of an adventure game in 2D, and you'll also have some shape-shifting abilities to make your way through the world, but I would assume this is more of a story-driven game than anything else. Release is planned for 9th of October. Up next is Little Nightmares 3. The third game in the series finally has a release date and will be released soon. It's however not the same developers as 1 and 2. Supermassive Games have taken over the development of the third game, as Embracer Group have acquired Taser Studios that developed the two first games. They wanted to move on to new projects, and Supermassive Games has some knowledge within the horror genre of games, have now developed a bunch of them like The Quarry, The Dark Picture Anthology, so hopefully they can do the series justice. But from the looks of it, it looks amazing. It looks true to the other two games. The style is still as creepy as ever, and looks to have some intense gameplay as well in it. It can also be played in co-op with a friend, which seems very fitting for this type of a game. So yeah, can't wait for this one, looks amazing. Release is planned for 10th of October. Next up is Ball Pit, which looks like an insane version of the older type of games where you bounce a ball and just try to break the squares on top. Here they obviously have roguified the game with a bunch of different balls, different characters. You build your little base as well, and I think you get the resources and all that kind of stuff. It looks insane and like a lot of fun, and I really like that they have made this type of a game into a roguelite. It feels kind of perfect. I do really like the art style as well, and even though there's a ton happening on the screen at the same time, it still feels kind of easy to see what is going on. Release is planned for 15th of October. Next up is Pale Coins, an old school fantasy RPG that is sporting an interesting pixelated graphical style. Not the most detailed one, but a very charming one, I must say. I'm getting some Heroes of Hammerwatch 2 vibes from it. The game is open world and has some Souls-like elements to it as well. There is what it seems like a big world to explore with dungeons, quests, stories, and of course a ton of loot to find and bosses to battle. Release is planned for 22nd of October. Then we have a Relic Guardian Tower Defense, and as the name kind of gives away, it is a tower defense game with some beautiful pixel graphics, very vibrant, with some insane towers. All the characters, all the monsters have a lot of character to them, which is really nice to see, and the towers are made up out of warriors that can be empowered, transformed into 15 different advanced spirit towers. You can move them around for optimal customization of your defenses, as the game will take you through 5 themed areas with over 20 levels. It doesn't look all too advanced, but it looks like a solid tower defense if you're into those types of games like me. Release is planned for 22nd of October as well. Then we have Painted in Blood, and this is kind of a boomer shooter FPS with some really nice looking old school type graphics. And the game is actually not a roguelite or a roguelike. It has a single player campaign, which will have some intense action, kind of an open-ended world, and then of course big skill trees to build out your character with. The Steam page doesn't say much about the story of the game, but it's definitely more horror vibe-esque. But yeah, I really like the aesthetics here. The combat looks decent, but hopefully the skill trees and more interesting weapons will make it more interesting. Release for this one is planned for 23rd of October. Then we have Tormented Souls 2. And this is of course the follow-up to the first game that released in 2021. This is an adventure horror game. It feels a bit like a Resident Evil type game, the older Resident Evil games, because in this one you're also exploring a kind of a big villa, and you of course come across all types of creatures, interesting characters and puzzles, and of course a bit of combat thrown in there as well. I never played the first one, so I don't really know what to expect here. The first one has over 2,000 reviews and sits at almost 90%, which is very positive. So hopefully this one follows in the first game's footsteps. But from what it looks like, it seems to have a complex story and some reality switching. So I might pick up the first one just to see what this series is all about. Release for the second game is 23rd of October. Then we have the Lonesome Guild, a single-player ARPG that is very cute looking. The story is also very cute, as the world has become shrouded by a loneliness, and that mist is just spreading, corrupting everyone in its path. And it's up to you and your band of characters to fix this mess. As much as the game is about ARPG combat, beating bosses, exploring, it's also about building friendships between the characters. And when your bonds and friendships increasing, you become more powerful and gain new abilities and combos. I like the character design. I do think the combat looks a bit basic, but it's hard to judge from just a small trailer. So hopefully it feels better when you actually play it yourself. Release for this one is also planned for 23rd of October. Then we have Moonlighter 2, The Endless Vault. I really like the first one, combining you owning your own shop and selling what you find during the night in dungeons. And the dungeon portion is basically a roguelite. I hope Moonlighter 2 can expand on this and make every part of the first game even better. But from what I remember, they had a demo a while back and that wasn't too well received, because owning your own shop and selling items was kind of put to the side of the game, and it focused more on the combat and exploration part of it. The first game was kind of 50-50, as you had to set the prices, manage the shop, stop people from stealing I think, and then of course upgrading everything. I do think the new visuals looks amazing, not inherently better, just very different. Like, I really love this art style, but we'll see. Hopefully they got some meaningful feedback. It is dropping into early access, and they don't have an end date for the early access, so there's probably going to be a lot of tweaking before this game hits 1.0. Release into early access will happen on 23rd of October. Yeah, a lot of games releasing at the end of October, and we're not even done yet. Misery is also releasing on the 23rd of October, and this to me really feels like an indie version of Stalker. It is a game that is co-op based, 1 to 5 players, but you are surviving in a nuclear disaster zone, so you have a lot of the same elements as the Stalker games, scavenging resources, building your own bunker, crafting weapons, so maybe a bit like Rust as well. And I think it looks really cute in a nuclear disaster kind of a way. So definitely keep an eye on Misery if you want a new survival crafter. And again, release is planned for 23rd of October. Then we have Mina the Hollower, and this is from the same studio that made Shovel Knight. And you can kind of see the same style being applied to this game, but instead of 2D, it takes on more of an old school Zelda aesthetic and style to it. You have kind of a classic map with different zones, some nice combat, puzzle solving and platforming, and of course some banger music. This one just takes you back to your childhood. It's kind of magical to see a game like this, and the execution seems top tier, with a lot of different areas, dungeons, bosses and equipment you can find. So hopefully this one is a banger ending October, and release is planned for 31st of October. So these were the games I'm interested in releasing in October. I'll soon have my part 3 out, looking at the best indie games releasing this year, and I'll soon also have a video looking at the best indie games releasing next year. But for now, thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.